All right, we're back. We've been moving kind of quickly. So first of all, I want to thank all the students and postdocs for the posters. As usual, there's not enough time to get to all the poster sessions, but we're going to have content available afterwards, and we really appreciate them bringing their work to show. I saw a couple of really nice posters, so that was enjoyable and a great way to interleave the break. Also want to point out that we didn't talk about it a lot at the top of the meeting, but poster sessions are really important to us, bringing on these new ideas. And as we move towards larger presence, it's really a great way to share work and see things across different types of work and different kinds of stakeholders. And we really try to encourage that to the point where we offer awards for the best student poster and the best postdoc poster. And we'll be doing that again this year with a $500 cash award, as well as recognition. And what we like to do in the last session on Thursday, on the last day of the meeting, we'll announce those poster winners, and the people with the winning posters will have the opportunity to present to the whole group. So we use that as a great incentive for people to stay with the meeting right until the end, because it's really enjoyable to see the student and postdoc presentations at the end. So please do stick with us. With that, I want to move us into breakouts, and I'm going to share my screen for just a second to make sure we're all on the same page. So we've updated the online agenda to 3:40 when we're starting here for these challenge breakouts. And the breakouts, we have 3 rooms. You'll move right from the breakout room links here in the Zoom meeting. Room 1, room 2, and room 3 mimic the 3 topics, the MGI topics that were discussed and presented on in session 1. And the other thing is that I haven't highlighted it before, but the MaRDA website has become the clearinghouse for challenges in building these communities of practice, communities of research for these challenges. So we have a menu choice for MGI challenges, which has information that is essentially the same as on the mgi.gov website. But something that's really different is if you pick one of these challenges, you'll see there's an opportunity to join a planning group. And we've been trying to get the sharing rights correct on all of those. So it's an opportunity for you to actually sign up today or tomorrow or at any point, or to bring colleagues this information so that we can start to build these communities of practice and do the next step in planning to build out these challenges, as well as new challenges that we might envision here in the next couple of days. So MGI challenges, this big topic for today and throughout this meeting. What's the MaRDA role? We heard this morning in the discussion that data is fundamental, models and AI are fundamental, things that are near and dear to the heart here at MaRDA. These challenges really cross stakeholder boundaries, and MaRDA is about linking and developing those cross-stakeholder work so that we can make things interoperable, not just our data interoperable, but really the whole way we approach the problem and the infrastructure itself interoperable. We heard Rich talk about demonstrating value and impact. And acceleration means not just the speed of the routine that we do in the MGI, but also how we expand pathways towards innovation so we can get somewhere new faster is really a fundamental part of these challenges. And so MaRDA was asked to be a central place to help build these challenge communities. And now that we have challenges out there and the idea of building new challenges and working on these challenges, we're going to have breakouts today that really work on discussions of how we actually go about creating and filling out a challenge. We'll talk about those. And eventually tomorrow come around to focus on building these communities, figuring out what the purpose is what we're doing today. The why comes first. What's the challenge that leads people ahead and makes connections important and valuable? And then the practice, the steps we need to take to put it in action. MaRDA has always been about trying to do less talking and more actual doing, trying to make things happen. And so we want to pull that together. An example that's been held up for community of practice work is the National Nanotechnology Initiative that's been out for well over a decade at this point in time. And I just pulled this particular paper because nanotech development, to do it as if people and places matter. That's really that sort of challenge focus. So in today's breakouts, we've got the 3 challenge topic areas that you can self-select and move to. And you'll be led there by moderation on a number of questions and see where people want to go. But the focus really today is to try to think about challenges as something that is specific, right? The classic example is put a person on the moon, put something out there that lets people really be drawn in a provocative, evocative way, something that resonates. But challenges themselves are made up of many challenges, scientific breakthroughs that need to happen, technological breakthroughs that need to happen, challenges that themselves will be hard. So we're eventually going to think of how we make those pieces composable. Challenges are more than just a single great scientific advance, in other words. They are things that move us towards something that has impact. And that's because challenges need to be sustained. So we need something that has legs and that really sort of moves along. And so, in a sense, we're thinking about how we spiral up. This is a concept on challenges that comes from Seth Kahan, but others as well have used it. And we've been working on this spiral for a long time, having events, having ways to create buy-in, framing things and gathering allies together and having strategic forethought so we then can synthesize things into challenges and eventually build this ecosystem and activate it, create a plan. In other words, I like to think of it that, you need to have a place you're going to go before you can make a roadmap to get to that place. So today is really about helping to flesh out ideas and think of new ways that might have more legs even than the challenges we've seen, or look for gaps. Tomorrow's breakouts, we're going to give some other opportunities for some specific working groups and thinking about creating new challenges. We heard earlier today about being able to actually augment these challenges and add challenges as we go. So that's sort of the overview and the charge, to get in and have a really vibrant discussion, let the moderators pull you in directions, but also figure out where the community wants to go. If MaRDA is supposed to be about hearing from the grassroots, now I think more than any time in recent memory, we need the grassroots to speak to what it is that resonates with us, where we want to go, and to help policymakers at the highest level figure out like how we can then wrangle that into action and some place to go. So thanks, and I'll see you in a breakout room. Any other questions or anything before we go? Things good? We do have separate Google Docs for the breakouts, but I'm sure your moderators will help you with that. So welcome back. I hope those discussions were good. The discussions in the room I was in were great. We had in some ways the challenge that's the furthest along. So we talked about a variety of other things, and I'll let Cosima summarize that. But just before I do that, let me first sort of share where we are. So we've just come back from the breakouts. We're going to just have some report outs from folks in the rooms that have things that they would like to say, and then we'll wrap up in the closing remarks. And if I forget to do it then, I'm going to do it right now, which is to look towards tomorrow. Tomorrow, we really are moving into next steps and breaking some barriers down. And so we're going to have a panel in the morning. There's been a really active working group working on how the community and publishing connection works, making some connections through professional societies that have publishing arms and other things. And so Linda Sapocek and Jonathan Schmidt are going to lead the day and that session, and we start with a panel discussion with Jane Greenberg from Drexel, Kamal Chowdhury from NIST, Taylor Sparks from Utah, Marcus Stricker from Ruhr, Jonathan Schmidt, who's a postdoc at ETH, and Dan Palmer, who's at UIUC. It's a really interesting group talking about this way to bring data deposition and publishing a little bit more into the 21st century, as it were. We'll have our second poster session, and then the breakouts, which follow on what we did today, and they're called Taking the Next Steps, because we have now 4 breakouts. We'll have one that is really about trying to find working group type things to do to expand this work on developing guidelines for data deposition and publishing. And then we're going to talk about constructing the challenges that constituted the 3 breakouts today. What are the common grounds? What are the pieces, the challenges within the challenges that we can focus on, right? A lot of this meeting is about planting a flag. We have challenges, and now what are the gaps? What's missing? What do we have to build out in infrastructure in the broadest sense that needs to be figured out so we can move on these things? And then we've decided this year, it was a great idea that actually came from Linda, about having a challenge specifically that students and postdocs get to run themselves. She'll be in there to moderate, but thinking about our early career people interested in the materials data landscape and the MGI. I think it was Jim Warren who once referred to a bunch of folks that do this work as the old gray heads, which I'm sensitive to. But there we go. But certainly, we need to let people start talking about where they fit in this. This doesn't mean that students and postdocs have to go to this challenge. You're welcome, of course, to come to any of the other challenges as well. But we have people giving posters, so we have a group here, and we want them to be active, not just passively sort of listening in on these things. And then finding new challenges. It was brought up at the beginning of the day that these are the challenges that were launched, but this doesn't mean these are the only challenges we're going to see, right? And so we really want to have a place that this group will be figuring out, what does it look like to create a new challenge? Do we need 2 years worth of meetings? No, I don't think so, right? We shouldn't. So what that looks like. So what is really the process to figure out creating a challenge? And this is not a breakout, to be clear, this is not a breakout full of answers. This is a breakout to figure that out. So, so that is what we'll be doing tomorrow. That being said, perhaps the folks who led the moderation in the rooms would pop on and give us a little bit of a quick report out on what happened in the rooms and where we might be ready to go tomorrow. So maybe I'll start with Cate if I can't see the whole.
I am here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay.
Maybe I'll pin you up there.
Okay, great. So we're in the breakout for enhancing structural performance and protecting the environment. And so we had a great discussion. We did it kind of backwards. We started at the fundamentals, and then we eventually got to the big compelling ideas. But I'm going to report it backwards and start with the big ideas and then tell you what underpins it. So some of the big test case ideas, and we really stuck within the framework of the challenges that were listed. One was low carbon cementitious materials, and the other was thermoplastic composite structures, lightweight. And so the test case ideas that came up included flying taxis, and then it was slightly downgraded to going from a paper plane to a drone in 6 months. And so the drone doesn't have to carry people. And so that's why that's better than actually a flying taxi that carries people. So start with the drone and have a composite that can go 20% further or carry 50% more payload, go through different materials, and create that within 6 months. So test it, use all of the tools that I'll talk about in a minute as the underpinnings for it. Another concept was a new wheelchair that is made out of, again, the composites, that it's lightweight, it has cool origami structure aspects to it, so you can throw it in your car trunk and it hardly takes any space, and it's not hard to lift. I mean, this would be really, really impactful if we could create something like that. So I think that those are both compelling ideas. There was another about deployable bridges that are more durable to the environment so that you can replace bridges quickly and replace them. This would get towards the cementitious material structures that with materials that are more durable, don't crumble as fast under environmental cycling. We also touched on forever chemicals under the concept of the protecting the environment. These are not just in electronics, but these fluorocompounds are in anything that's nonstick, from clothing to cookware, and that if we could frame a challenge, we didn't quite get to the way to frame the challenge with metrics that people could understand about, oh, there's this stuff in my packaging and cookware that's killing me and the world, and we can remove it by this other process. And then Benji has this great challenge of the nanotube cement, which I have coined a new term, cement, where the NT is capital at the end. So it's just cement, but NT for nanotube at the end, and that this will reduce carbon by over 40% through using nanotubes for reinforcement instead of the higher energy and less of the higher energy consuming components. Underlying those test cases are the good old concept of bridging all those length scales. We have models at different scales, but they don't link together. Can we do this with data and machine learning and couple the people as well as the people that are experts at these scales, as well as the models to accelerate these challenges that we just discussed? So all the way from atoms, not just to coupons and structure, but all the way to system level design. So it's really the whole path. And then inside of that is also including the qualification of materials, which is incredibly important if you're actually going to deploy something. And you have to have models that you trust and that are based on data and models you believe and are fast. So I think those are the big picture pieces that we covered in our group.
Excellent. That sounds great. Thank you very much. Cosima, you want to give a quick?
You already alluded to it. We went a little bit rogue, so I do apologize. But we were the Propelling the Information and Communications Technologies Revolution group. We were a relatively small group, but one of the first things that we were able to identify, we were very fortunate, or maybe for the purposes of this exercise, not as fortunate in terms of there really is, incredible progress already here, just given the Charisma opportunity. And for those that don't know Charisma, it's the CHIPS AIAE for Rapid Industry Informed Sustainable Semiconductor Materials and Processes Charisma funding opportunity. That was announced last year and is currently under review, but this is a direct response, as we've heard today, to Donna's work, the AI aspirations for materials, et cetera, and really leveraging a lot of the input from these various activities and kind of the community as a whole. We did have, I thought, a really interesting discussion though, and there were a few things, I mentioned this morning, I've been trying to stay abreast of everything that goes on in this space. And, even at my time where this was really the priority for my job, every day I would come across either a new funding opportunity that I didn't know about, a new capability. I found out there was a new piece of equipment that was being leveraged that I just had no idea about. So it's so rapidly evolving and we don't know what we don't know. So a lot of our conversation surrounded around how we really need to be able to amplify these communities and make sure that people are in fact aware and contributing, as well as actually leveraging the information shared. There was one comment that I'd like Donna to actually speak to because it is something that I think is unique here that I hadn't heard before. So Donna, if you wouldn't mind sharing what you shared with us about the semiconductor industry and data.
Yeah, there are challenges, and I guess there's the semiconductor industry is extremely proprietary. There's a lot of secret sauce. They're very concerned in general about sharing their materials and their process models and data with each other. However, recognizing that there is a need, certainly at the pre-competitive stage, to share that more broadly. But then as they are looking across the entire supply chain and value chain for the semiconductor fabrication process, which includes everyone from chemical manufacturers to, those providing those ultra high purity filters, to the equipment manufacturers, to the foundries, and then to dicing and packaging facilities. There are various points at which some issue might arise. And so they've recognized the need in order to stay competitive and in order to identify failure points, potential failure points across the fabrication chain, to share some of that data. So there are actually companies that provide that data sharing service, and they work on kind of an individual basis, setting agreements with each of the vendors, each of the foundries, in order to provide to the whole chain the right amount of information that's stripped of IP, and opportunities for us to kind of leverage what they're doing in that space, so we don't have to reinvent the wheel on sharing proprietary data. So there may be things we can learn from the industry, and I'm going to hunt down what some of those vendors are, the data providers, and put that in the notes over the next day or so.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Donna. So for the next one, Ben Blazek had a hard stop and had to go. So Braxton Lewis has kindly offered to jump in and give
I'll take the reins on this. So at group number 3, advancing critical and emerging technologies, we had a great discussion, covered a lot of different areas, and I'll just go over a few real quick. Fusion technologies, looking at containment vessels, materials, magnets, control, quantum technologies, augmented stability of qubits, advanced separations and sequestration, water reclamation, critical minerals and materials, and I'll go in more into that one here in a minute. So we talked about superconductor materials and designing materials for reuse and linking those inherently. We talked we talked about alternatives assessment, circularity, and sustainable chemistry. We talked about where a group like MaRDA could make a difference across that entire field, and we developed a few bullet points for some 5-year goals. Let me get back to the advanced separations and sequestration area. And we really felt this was probably the hottest topic that we had. We looked at securing supply chains for critical minerals and materials. We're looking at microchips, batteries, photovoltaics, and my world of energetic compounds for the Department of Defense. In the water requirements to run these types of operations, and of course there's some regional issues there. So there's a whole lot of overlapping areas that could come into play here. Now, with those overlapping areas, life cycle analysis comes to be a big part. And how do you store, hold, collect, and distribute those data sets? Now a group like this could be one of those clearinghouses that can provide that data infrastructure for decision makers, whether they're in the private sector, the public sector, or academia, to help make better decisions as we're moving through. We talked about what kind of breakthroughs are required. While none of us were specifically able to describe the manufacturing concerns, we know that there's going to be manufacturing concerns when it comes to use of new materials, and identifying the specific properties and making sure that they're right for those products or that will be made. We want to talk about tailored membranes and having that ability to shift a membrane or control a membrane in order to capture one molecule versus another, and how do we do that in a cost competitive process. We talked about additional partnerships for more large data sets, to describe some of those membrane and other technologies, cohesive data sets, membrane properties and processing parameters. We want to understand what the manufacturing base, but also keep in mind education at all levels, everything from the consumer class all the way down to the high school level, and making sure that the scientific breakthroughs that we're coming through are being communicated downward, so that these folks can even be educated as they walk into the professional world, and including AI. And of course, I'm just kind of going down through a long list here. How do we incorporate automated intelligence, which I really refer to as assisted information, and mitigating any kind of risks associated with that. A lot of business concerns with sharing of patentable materials, and how do we handle those confidential business information. So we've got some more content we can go into under materials reuse and design, sustainable chemistry, but for time wise, I'll cut it here short.
That's awesome. Appreciate it, and appreciate you doing that on short notice, since Ben couldn't jump in and do it. So thanks to all the groups. I think it sounds like it was a great afternoon, and a lot of these topics have come up before, and I'm gonna just highlight a couple things. Braxton went right to one of them near the end: education and workforce development, really issues which are really central. And this ties in with a topic we hear a lot. A lot of people, when they're new to FAIR data and open science, think that FAIR means open and free and everything is shared everywhere. And we like to point out that actually it's a methodology, but you can put barriers, walls, paywalls, worries about sensitive information or classified information up. We can still use the same structures across them, right? Those translate across those walls, and that's central, I think, to workforce development, and something that throughout the education system, and you'll hear some bit of that from Olga Wodo tomorrow in one of the Martian report outs on ways to interject or inject this type of thinking all throughout the educational process. So the way we work in research is the way that people work in industry. And so when someone comes out with an education that's data aware, it's valuable right away. So I think that's a highlight that goes across all these challenges. Every one of these challenges has a real need for serious workforce development. The other is data sovereignty, which wasn't really called that, but in my breakout and in this breakout and others, we hear a lot about proprietary information of one sort or another and control of that information. That's a theme that goes well beyond material science. In material science, one of the reasons sharing data is hard is we have the potential to make money off this stuff, right? There's IP and there's producing stuff that's going to be important. And people have historically said in astronomy, everybody shares data because it has no monetary value, right? It doesn't matter. It's just basic knowledge. But the idea of having control over your data runs all the way from legal issues associated with it, which is completely unsettled, to things like health issues, health data and private issues and the care principles and thinking about populations and what right they have to their own data about them and the like. And so that's something that was discussed fairly extensively at the FAIROS RCN PI meeting, which we held in January in DC. So I think that there's a lot to be learned from other groups as well, and a way to tie issues that relate to different types of industries and different types of data and different parts of the data lifecycle together about that. And that's a place certainly I think that MaRDA could help convene people and think of those types of through-going threads. So those are wonderful things to think about, and I hope things that people will be able to think about more broadly. With that, I don't know if Cosima, if you have anything else that you wanted to close the day with, or I think that we are ready to move on and get some rest and come back tomorrow with our sessions on publishing and moving data forward in the publishing pipeline and making it work across things, as well as kind of wrap up our breakouts a little bit in the second half of the day into ways that we can really find specific challenges within the bigger challenges and have another great poster session. Any other last thoughts or benedictions, Cosima?
No, I appreciate everyone's time and commitment to this. It's been a great day. Like I said, I'm always excited when I learn something new, and I do all the time, and I did today as well. So I very much appreciated everyone's time, your commitment to making these breakout sessions fantastic as always, and looking forward to the next 2 days.
Yeah, really thank you all to all the participants, both on the panels and off, and to Cosima for helping so much in getting the day organized, and to Austin and Selena for running around and making so many things work. And watch for a new link tonight, and we hope to see everybody back tomorrow. Thank you all.